Hello. Today I'm going to go over how to install the Seestar ALP Simple Seestar Controller application via source code. And if you're wondering why you'd want to do this via source code, is you would be able to get all the latest changes before an official release is compiled and added here to the releases. So there are changes to this application almost daily. And thanks to the developers and the contributors to this, huge thanks, huge shout out to them. I am super grateful that this exists. I don't even open the Seestar Zo app anymore. I just solely use Seestar ALP. So huge thank you to these people. But you would want to use source because you will be up to date to the minute as changes are made rather than waiting for a release to come out. It's perfectly fine to wait for a release. You're not going to have any issues with the release typically. Everything's been tested and verified at the time they put a release out. So perfectly okay to do that. I made a video on how to do that as well. You can check that out. If you want the latest and greatest every day, source code is the way to go. This is what I use. So let's get started. So from the GitHub homepage, you're just going to scroll down all the way to installation. And you'll see the standalone package part, which I went over in a previous video. And then you're going to see the source code part. If you have a Mac, you can follow these instructions right here to the T, and it will work flawlessly. I installed this on my wife's Mac Mini and tested it out, and I had 0 issues. And then for Windows, this is where we're going to be working today. So the first thing we're going to need is Python. So you can just use the link right here, and it's going to take you straight to the releases page for Python. And you're going to scroll down here to the release version. And the version that I've been using and I've had success with is 3.12.5. This is the one that's used on Raspberry Pi as well. So I just figured I would use it on Windows also to make sure that everything is compatible. So go ahead and click on 3.12.5. You'll be brought to another page. You'll just scroll down and you're going to grab the Windows Installer 64-bit version. Go ahead and click that and save it. All right, so now we've got Python. Next up is we need the build tools from Visual Studio. So you can just click right here on this link. It's going to take you right to the C++ build tools. Click the link, download it, and save. All right, now we've got those 2 items. The one thing that's not on here that I would recommend getting is I run from latest source. And to be able to do this, you need Git installed. And I get Git from Git for Windows. I could spell right. Gitforwindows.org. And this works perfectly for me. So this is what I use. So feel free to get this one. There are other versions of Git as well, but this is the one I'm going to show today. So we're going to download that and save. All right. So we've got all 3 things that we need here. So let's get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to install Python. So we'll open up our downloads folder and we're going to install Python. And I'm starting this from scratch so you guys can see if I run into any issues, we can troubleshoot through them together. And I'm not sure. Let's go ahead and uninstall. No Python. I must have not uninstalled that correctly. So let's go ahead and repair. I don't think I uninstalled it correctly. I think I just deleted the Python folder. So give me 1 second here while I fix this, and then I'm going to uninstall it correctly. So let's go to Control Panel, Programs, and Python. Let's go ahead and uninstall it. All right, uninstall successful. So hopefully I can actually do this now. So we're going to double click. There we go. When you go to install Python, you're going to want to go to Customize Installation and make sure that pip is checked because we're going to need that. And I'm just going to click for all users, even though it's just me on this computer. But we want to make sure we have pip checked because we're going to need that to get our dependencies later. So once we've got all that checked, we can hit, and 1 second, I like to, I use Python for other things. So I use this, but you don't have to. Main thing is you need to have pip installed. So next, and I'm going to install it for all users and install. Yes. All right. Setup was successful. So now we have Python. And to verify you have Python, if you want to open up PowerShell, you can type Python -- version. And there we go. We've got 3.12.5 installed. So I'm going to close this out And next thing we need is to install our build tools. So you're just going to double click that. And we're going to hit yes, continue, and we're going to let that run. This is pretty fast typically. All right. So then you'll be brought to this screen here. You don't need to mess with anything here. You can just go right down here to the bottom right and press install. And that's going to download and install at the same time. All right. So now our build tools are installed. So we can exit out of that. And last but not least, we're going to install Git. And we're going to press yes, next. And you're going to do a lot of next here. Oh, that's fine. You won't get that, but just go ahead and keep hitting next and just leave everything default. You can just breeze through this by clicking next a billion times. And once that's finished, you can install. All right. So Git is now finished. I do not need to see the release notes. We're going to finish and we are done with our downloads. So now we can start following these steps here. After we've installed the following, we installed Git so that way we can run this command right here for latest source. And we're going to copy that and you're going to run this. I run it in PowerShell. So we're going to open up PowerShell and I'm going to copy that one more time and right click here. And that will paste for you in PowerShell. So right clicking, once you've copied something, you can just paste it right into PowerShell. One thing I do want to mention is wherever you run this command is where it's going to install this repository. So I am currently on my C drive, users folder, and then Alexa folder. So kind of show you, if you go to your PC, your C drive, users, and then my profile here, this is where it's going to install. So I'm going to hit enter on this, and you're going to see a Seestar ALP folder pop up right there once this runs. And there it is. So now what it's doing is it's cloning everything in the repository on the GitHub and putting it on your PC. And there we go. So now it's all done. So we've got our Seestar ALP folder here, and it has all the same files that you see here in the GitHub page. All that has been cloned to your Windows PC now. So the next step you're going to need to do is you're going to need to download the dependencies so this can actually run. And how you're going to do that is first you need to change your directory to the Seestar ALP directory. And to do that, from what's default when you open up PowerShell, if you installed it in your user folder, all you're going to do is do cd, which is change directory, and you can just type SEE and press tab on your keyboard, and that should automatically populate the folder for you, and then just hit enter. And so now you are in this folder in PowerShell. So if you're not familiar with PowerShell, that's all you got to do there. And so once we're in there, we're going to copy this line of code here, the pip3 install-r requirements. You can just press the copy button, and same thing, just right click and press enter. And that is going to start downloading all of the dependencies for the software to work, for the application to work. And just to give you an idea of what that's looking for here with this requirements.txt, the reason why you have to switch to the Seestar folder is because it's right here, requirements, text document. So it's reading this and downloading all these dependencies that you're going to need. And this is going to take a little bit, depending on how fast your internet is. So you can just hang out, let it run. Hopefully you don't have any errors. Hopefully I don't get any here. Let's see. So far, so good. Okay, so we got a fail here. And it looks like it failed on building wheel for netifaces by project.toml error. Building weird did not run successfully. Our error. Microsoft Visual C++ 14.0 or greater is required. Did it with build tools. Interesting. So we definitely have this installed, but this is good. We got an error. So as we can use our build tools to get it. So when we installed the build tools, you should have something called Visual Studio Installer. Let's go ahead and open that up and see what we can do here. So if we go to available downloads here, this is odd because it wants C++ 14.0 or greater. And if I go to my control panel and go to my programs and features, you can see here I have all kinds of C++ redistributables here. So So what I'm going to do, what I've had to do in the past here, is I just install Visual Studio Community. And I'm going to install that and see if that can fix our issue. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to install Python and I'm going to install C++. I don't know if I need to do this, but when I've had this issue pop up in the past, this is what I've done and it has seemed to fix it for me. So I'm going to install those two items here and hopefully that will resolve this issue. We will see though. I'm going to exit out of PowerShell for now. So that way once this finishes, if it needs to install anything, it'll be fresh once I reopen PowerShell. All right, don't need that. I'm going to exit out of that. Now that that's done, let's try this again. I'm going to open up PowerShell and I'm going to press the arrow on my keyboard. So a little trick is you can use commands that you've used before by just pressing up, make things a little bit faster. So I'm going to change back to the Seestar ALP directory. I'm going to run that pip3 install again. And hopefully this will work this time. All right, here we are. This is where we failed last time. Looks like it passed this time. And we're done. All right, so once that is complete, it should be good to go. So you can open or copy this command right here, python root_app, and paste it into PowerShell by right-clicking. Do it again. And we should get a startup complete. There it is, startup complete. So I'm not sure why that fails the first time, but to resolve it, downloading the community Visual Studio and installing the Python and the C++ seems to resolve the issue. So that's what I've been doing. Now that the startup is complete, you can use SSC as normal. So if you go to your local host, port 5432, you are online and you are ready to go. And one thing I want to mention here is to grab any new updates from the repository as they're made. To do that, you need to open up PowerShell and switch to the Seestar ALP directory by cd change directory Seestar ALP. Once you're in there, since we have installed Git for Windows, all you have to do is type git pull, and this will download anything that has changed in this repository and update it for you right away. And there's been no changes in the last, minute. We're already up to date, but if there are changes that are made, you will actually see how many changes, how many additions, how many deletions, and all that. So to stay up to date, usually before I start imaging for the night, I will always just pull the latest update. And then from there, I will run python root_app.py to start the service. And make sure you do not close this window, just like in the release version. Keep this open because this is your service. So ensure you keep it open. And if you need to refer to how to use all this, you can check out my other video. I did some basic tutorials on how everything works, how to configure and all that. So feel free to check that out. But that is how you install it from source. So just to summarize what we did, we downloaded Python, we downloaded the build tools, we downloaded Git for Windows, and we kind of just followed this step by step here in the README. When we installed the dependencies via the requirements.txt, we had an issue there. So we ended up going into the Visual Studio installer and installing Visual Studio Community, and we added the Python and the C++ add-ons for it. And then we were actually able to successfully run the requirements.txt to get the dependencies. So hopefully this helped you out, and thank you for watching.